You need to make a low-stakes decision, maybe choosing a new software tool for work, or even just picking a flight. Immediately, your mind watches that simple choice fracture into a dozen worst-case scenarios. A delayed flight leads to a missed connection, which leads to a lost bag, which leads to a ruined presentation, which leads to losing the client. Society has a very specific set of labels for people who think this way. Friends might call you a pessimist. Colleagues might tell you that you worry too much. You might even find yourself on the receiving end of an armchair diagnosis for generalized anxiety. Over time, internalizing those labels creates a profound internal tension. You start to view your own brain as a broken machine, a burdensome engine you have to constantly fight just to get through the day. Clinical psychology reveals a completely different reality. This involuntary urge to map out negative outcomes is a strong indicator of high executive functioning. Anticipating the worst is a highly evolved cognitive strategy. Researchers call it defensive pessimism. To understand defensive pessimism, we have to look at how the brain processes data. Highly analytical minds are built for continuous processing. They automatically parse information and run calculations, even in states of absolute rest. Because the brain is continuously intaking data, it constantly asks itself, what if this happens? It searches for hidden patterns and identifies subtle risks that other people overlook entirely. This diagram illustrates a mechanism called counterfactual thinking. Starting from a single present decision, the central node, the mind projects outward into multiple simulated timeline paths to explore every alternative outcome. These branching paths are rigorous mental stress tests. The brain predicts consequences by running variables against each other, systematically eliminating failing options until a viable path survives. Low-level thinking avoids this effort. It focuses strictly on immediate gratification and what feels good right now, ignoring the complex variables required to map out the future. Running constant, unprompted simulations is the exact mechanism a highly intelligent brain uses to process reality and construct insights that most people miss entirely. A brain that refuses to switch off exacts a physical toll. Chronic anticipation causes deep physical and mental exhaustion. The driver behind this exhaustion is future-oriented cognition, the ability to mentally simulate distant events and map their prerequisites before taking a single physical action. Holding all those future variables in your working memory creates significant internal stress. You are processing reality much more fully than the average person. This specific friction differs from generalized anxiety. Instead of a vague sense of dread, the stress originates from a sharp awareness of long-term outcomes and a heavy sense of personal responsibility for preventing failure. The heavy mental friction you experience is the heat generated by a highly evolved defense mechanism working overtime to protect you. The true payoff of this exhausting mental architecture reveals itself when an unexpected crisis finally hits. When a project collapses or an emergency strikes, the average person panics. They are encountering the failure for the very first time. Meanwhile, the defensive pessimist remains eerily, deliberately calm. The reason for this calm is simple. You have already lived through this exact disaster during your prior mental simulations. This animation shows the psychological advantage of that prior rehearsal. By separating immediate emotion from action, your brain creates a distinct mental gap where logic takes over and a strategic decision node forms. Within that gap, you bypass the instinct to panic or defend your ego. Instead, you immediately execute the survival plan your subconscious already drafted weeks ago. Deep thinkers possess the rare strength to pause, observe, and respond deliberately when everything falls apart. That cognitive wiring turns you into the most reliable person in the room. Your mind anticipates problems to keep you safe. You are wired for deep thinking, and sometimes the most prepared mind is the most powerful one.